Alright guys, let's talk about this Fobus Glock 36 holster I got. It's one of the Fobus paddle holsters. They're a budget line of holsters. They're probably the cheapest kydex holster on the market. And I went with this for the Glock 36 because number one, it's very difficult to find any left-handed holsters for the Glock 36 that aren't custom. And number two, I didn't want to spend a lot of money because, I don't carry the Glock as much as the LC9, so I just wanted a paddle holster for when I'm like hunting or something like that that's easy to get on and off and is real simple. And, well, let's just start with the big white elephant in the room, Fobus. They have a bad reputation with these paddle holsters. A lot of people do not like them, and understandably so, but a lot of the reasons why people don't like them is because they don't understand how to properly use this holster. When I get a product, typically like I buy something, this is something I bought for my own personal use. It's not part of the channel, but typically whenever I buy something, it's part of the channel, one of the first things I do is go to the manufacturer's website and read their recommendations and all that, because there's actually a surprising amount of information about pretty much every product out there about these things and how to care for them and maintain them, and I just like knowing that information. And Fobus had quite a bit of information on how to properly use and care for and break in this holster. Now when you go online, you go into the forums and you look at videos on this, the major complaint you see is that these are extraordinarily tight and that people can't get their firearm in and out without it popping out of their pants. And it's a pretty legitimate complaint, because when I first got this and before I looked on the website on how to properly use this, I put this thing in there and I felt like I couldn't even get it out. It was like it felt like it was cemented in there, and I was kind of like, oh my god, I wasted my money on this. But I went to the manufacturer's website, did some reading, did some research, and now what I have is actually a very enjoyable and very decent holster for like the $22 or $23 that I paid for this thing. And I'm actually very happy with this purchase, and it's holding up very well. I've been carrying it for a couple of weeks now actually, and it's actually been fantastic once you get it through that initial break-in, which only takes maybe half an hour. So let's explain. They make these Fobus holsters for all different guns. They're pretty much the same though in how they work. They're a paddle holster. Let me pull this out. Set the firearm aside, and that firearm is safe, of course. How they work is you have this paddle that goes into your pants. So you don't have to loop these into your belt. Directly, you can just slide them into your pants. The paddle goes on the inside of your pants, and the holster goes on the outside. And there's this lip here that is designed to catch your belt from the inside of your pants as you pull up, and to allow the weapon to release. Now, here's how the actual retention works. Your retention is right here along the trigger guard. And how this works is, and a lot of people complain that there's no adjustable tensioning on these, but in reality these things are actually going to tension themselves quite well because they are so tight to begin with. They're actually going to come out and be just right once you play with them for long enough. How this works is, you see you got a couple of rivets here that hold this together, and here there's nothing holding it together, and you can see there's some flex there. As the firearm goes in, it basically goes in, snaps, it spreads this as it goes in, and then it snaps back into place behind it. Now the problem is, most people go to pull this out of the holster and just double check to make sure this is safe. What happens is, people put this in, as you can see it locks into place, and then they go like this, and no matter how hard you pull, this firearm is not coming out because your hand is preventing that from spreading. Even if you take your hand and bring it up here, it still takes a tremendous amount of energy to get that gun out of the holster. Now how this works and how this firearm is held in place is because of that seam there. Now as this rides into your pants, you pull on the gun, and what happens is, you can see as you pull on the gun, it spreads that, and opens it for you. I'm trying to do this backwards, but whoops. Get that back where we belong here. Tough doing this next to a camera. But as you can see, it comes out with a... Oh, I'm all cockeyed now. You need to release the firearm with a quick jerk. You can't pull it out gently. You can't pull it out slowly. You've got to jerk it out with a quick, swift, sudden movement. You can't do it slowly. You can't ease it out. No, you've got to pull 100%. And what it does, like I showed you, is as you pull, it opens that and then releases the firearm. If you pull slowly, it doesn't release it enough. You need that sudden jerk to really open it up for you. Now, so what you do, and if you're actually holding it right and not in front of, trying to do it in front of a camera, it comes out very easy now. I can actually get this in and out with minimal effort, actually. As you can see, oh, you can't see. It goes in and out very easy. So, how do you get this to work like that? Number one, you need a good belt. You can't screw around and use like a cheap nylon Boy Scout belt. You've got to use a good, thick leather belt is what I recommend. I tried this with the nylon belt and it just doesn't catch as good. It actually slipped out a couple of times and started to come out of my pants. I switched over to my leather belt. I have a really thick, actually I think it's by maybe Carhartt, a really thick leather Carhartt belt, and it works terrific. It works with normal jeans and pants, you know, because it's a small enough belt. It's not a duty belt, but it's thick enough that it catches and has never popped out of my pants on me. The big problem people have is they're using those thin, like dressy leather belts or nylon belts, and they're not catching. So you do need a nice thick belt, and I recommend getting something like a Dickies or a Carhartt. Next thing you need, a little bit of gun oil. You're going to want to take a little bit of gun oil and spread it into this area here, and also a little bit maybe along where the barrel comes in. Now, you might be able to see, but you can see there's a little bit of spot where the oil is worn off there, and that's where it's making contact. So what I did was actually, after using this a couple of times, I put some oil on the slide there, and that helped quite a bit. It spread the oil inside the kydex, and that made a world of difference. Just a couple of drops of gun oil really made a difference. And plus, you know, having this oiled up on the inside will help protect your firearm. Every time you put it in, you will have a little residue in there that will help protect the firearm. So here's what you do. You're going to want to get this. Get your pants ready, get your belt on, put some gun oil in this. Put the gun in there and pull it and draw it like you would normally draw it, like 15 or 20 times. The first couple of times it's going to be rough. You're going to have to really pull hard. After 4 or 5 times, it's really going to soften up on you. 10 times, the thing's going to be like a whole new holster. You get to that 15 to 20 range, and it's actually going to draw really, really nice. Take the gun, put it back in the holster, leave it overnight. Come out the next day, do the same thing again overnight. You know, it's going to settle a little bit, but it's going to be easier that second day. Do it again. 10, 15 draws. By the end of that second day, the gun, the holster is as broken in as it's going to get. And then basically what I do is about once a week or so, I've been applying a little bit of oil into that spot because it does dry up. So I put a little bit of oil there, but even when it's nice and dry, it still comes out nice and easy. You know, as long as you're drawing it correctly in. See, if you don't do it right, you pull at an angle, you pull weird, you're just not going to do it. But I get it off camera where I can actually draw it at a straight angle, and it comes out just fine. So these Fobus, they're cheap, they're budget, they're inexpensive. But you know what, if you're willing to take the time to break it in, and you're willing to learn to draw from it properly, they're actually a really decent product, and allow you to have a nice extra holster for $22, $23. And if you're a lefty like me, it's a big deal because it's very difficult to get left-handed holsters, and you know, it breaks the bank when you always have to constantly be buying custom holders for your firearms. So having a cheap Fobus option like this is actually quite nice.